Hello everyone, this is Michael with Quiet Lawn. The topic of this video is the pros and cons of mowing. You often hear me talking negatively about mowing in our business and the constant frustrations that I have with mowing. So I wanted to make a video talking about some of the pros as well, and why why I do think mowing has an important role, especially in starting your business. So let's talk about some of the pros. The first pro is it's an extremely low barrier to entry to start mowing. Most of us already have equipment that we use for our own lawns. There's no licensing requirements really. You want to get a business license, but most people don't start that way. But it's just one of those businesses that pretty much anybody can go out and start in a day. Which is also, one of the cons, because it's easy for everybody else to start a mowing business as well. It's easy to learn. It's fairly easy to teach somebody how to mow compared to a lot of other stuff, construction or handyman services or being a plumber, electrician. Pretty much, most things, there's a fairly low learning curve for mowing. So it's appealing that way. It's easy to sell because everybody knows what mowing is. Everybody that has a lawn needs their lawn mowed. So, there's not a lot of skill required to sell it. It's a big need, and that makes that easier. And probably the biggest pro, at least kind of how we want to scale our business, is that you don't need many customers to mow or to start your business because you're visiting there so frequently. You might only need 50 to 100 customers to have a full-time route, and you can acquire that very quickly, as opposed to fertilization weed control, where you might need 400 to 600 to have a full-time route, or you might need 800 to 1,000 quarterly pest control customers to have a full-time route for one employee or for yourself. So, you need a small fraction of the amount of customers at least to get started and have, fill your own schedule or fill the schedule for an employee. So that's probably the most appealing thing to me about mowing, is it kind of is something that can get your business started while you start building out those higher margin, easier services like fertilization, weed control, or pest control, or whatever else it may be. Let's talk about some of the cons. The biggest con is that it's seasonal. For probably 95% of the country, mowing is seasonal. You might have some places in mid to South Florida that you're going year round, and even then it slows down a little bit in the winter, I think. But most of us are mowing 25 to 40 weeks a year. Here in our area, we are actually, if we mowed weekly, we might only get 25 cuts a year. We're at one of the worst parts of the country as far as how long our mowing season is. That's why we personally only offer bi-weekly 17 visits a year. That way we can have Group A and Group B. So we're mowing 17 for Group A, 17 for Group B, and we get 34 weeks of mowing. But still, that's 18 weeks that I have to figure out how to keep my guys working. That's 4 months, over 4 months that I'm having to figure out how to keep my guys busy when they're not mowing. So it's seasonal. That's the biggest challenge. You got your guys working, and then what do you do with them for the remainder of the year? If I was in Florida and we were getting closer to 40 cuts a year or 45 some places, it would be much more appealing service. I might have a business where I just mow and then do Christmas lights, and that's a pretty dang good business. But obviously, depending on which part of the country and your conditions, it becomes much less appealing as that number of weeks mowing goes down. And that's kind of the situation we're in where we are. It's very high capital requirement. The equipment itself is very expensive. Even if you go with push mowers, it can still be pretty pricey, especially for the electric stuff, all the batteries, all that stuff is pretty high capital requirements, and you go through a lot of it. It ends up tearing up. You have to replace it. So compared to some other services like pest control, where you might need $1,000 worth of equipment, to get a nice commercial sprayer and a flow zone sprayer and stuff like that, and all your tools, you might need to spend several thousand, 10, 20,000 on a truck and a trailer and your equipment, not even counting the truck or the vehicle. It's pretty low margin, because there's such a low barrier to entry, you have everybody and their brother going out thinking they're a landscaper and they're mowing grass on the weekends for extra money for 15, 20, 25 bucks. And you're trying to charge double that, but you should be able to charge triple that or whatever. But because, those guys drag down the market price of what people think the service should cost, it affects you. So there's a pretty low margin, that, and, there's such high capital required. That's what kind of drags that margin down. Much lower, you might make with mowing 10 to 25 or 30% on the super high side. I doubt many people actually make 30% if they actually knew their numbers. But compare that to pest control or lawn treatments where you might be 40 to 60%. So it's a big difference in as far as the margin. The last con is it's physically harder than those other things. Even with a riding mower, especially in our extreme heat, where here at the beach, the summer temps the heat index can be 110, 120 degrees regularly. It just beats the crap out of the guys. String trimming is very physical. Carrying around a weed eater, that gets very physical. Sitting on the mower out in the sun, carrying around a blower, edger, walking miles and miles a day around the yards. Even with a comfortable ride-on mower, that's still a very physically tough job compared to some of these other things that we talked about, especially pest control. So that's some of the pros and cons. As we continue to expand my business, and I've mentioned in the past, my goal is to open several locations, small locations similar to what we have here now, doing between probably 400,000 and maybe 1.5 million each. We will start out each location with mowing because we can very quickly keep an employee busy. We can, very quickly establish a location. And then in the meantime, we can do exactly like we're doing here, except much faster. Start building out the more profitable services like pest control and lawn treatments and stuff like that. But I do see value in mowing. I do think it's very much dependent on the part of the country you're in and how long your season is. But I do see a lot of value in mowing. There's a lot of negatives, but we wouldn't be where we were without mowing. I wouldn't have been able to go out and start a pest control business. At that time I didn't have the knowledge, and I wouldn't be able to acquire the amount of customers needed to get myself by. It would take me years to do that, so I probably would have quit. Same thing with lawn treatment. So mowing definitely has its place. You might be in a good spot where it's awesome for you, but I do recommend you looking into some of that other stuff as well. But I hope that helps. Please leave your feedback and comments below, and I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.